Being intellectual. This is the second story. Before I jump into the main story, let me introduce this friend of mine. Currently, I am taking part in an internship program at the Government Library and Archive Service of East Java Province, a mandatory requirement for my college graduation. The 3 months program has been an eye opening experience for me. While my main objective was to complete this requirement, I ended up gaining something more valuable: meaningful friendship and a new appreciation for resilience in this phase of pressure. During this internship, I met many new friends from a variety of institutions across East Java. We came from different major cities and walks of life, but our shared experience brought us closer. Despite the diversity in our backgrounds, one thing united us all: our mutual struggle as final year students, piles of assignments, final internship reports, and upcoming thesis proposals weighed heavily on our shoulders. Every day amidst cataloging books or assisting with archive services, our conversation naturally drifted to our shared burdens as students. From those many conversations, this story focuses on two of my closest friends during this internship, Lala and Lely. Both came from the same university, Windsor, and somehow from the very first week, we formed a bond that felt effortless. Maybe it was the way we shared jokes while preparing bookshelves, or how we all preferred doing reports in odd corners of the library where the supervisors couldn't easily spot us. Whatever it was, their presence made everything feel a little easier. One day, while handling the front desk service section, I glanced over the corner table near the reference shelves. There they were, Lala and Lily, heads down, deeply focused on typing their reports. The hum of the old ceiling fan above them and the soft murmur of patrons flipping through the newspapers created a calm backdrop. It was a picturesque moment: two hardworking students carving out time between responsibilities faces marked by fatigue but also by quiet determination. We'd often joke about how ironic it was that we work at the library, yet barely had time to read for leisure. Lala would laugh and say, "Kalau begini terus, bisa-bisa kita jadi pustakawan beneran." Lily would chime in, "Yang penting laporan selesai dulu, nanti jadi apa urusan nanti." Despite the stress, what made our internship special was how we helped each other cope, whether it was borrowing each other's flash drives, proofreading each other's drafts, or just offering moral support during lunch breaks. We built a culture of mutual care. I still remember one afternoon when Lily's laptop suddenly shut down just as she was about to save her report. Panic washed over her face. Without thinking, Lala scooted over, lent her laptop, and they both started laughing. Kalau nggak gini bukan mahasiswa semester akhir namanya. There were also the quieter moments. On some days, when tasks were light and the supervisor wasn't around, we'd all sit together and talk about our dreams. Lala wanted to continue her studies abroad. She loved the idea of becoming an academic and one day lecturing in her hometown. Lily had a more grounded dream. She wanted to open a reading house in her village where kids could explore books without having to travel far. I shared my hopes too about finishing my studies on time, getting a job supporting my family, and one day having my own little publishing business. These dreams often give us strength. Whenever one of us felt overwhelmed, we'd remind each other of those goals. Semangat, ingat tujuan kita, we'd say. Time moved fast. Soon enough, we reached the final month of the internship. That when things got more intense, the final report deadlines loomed over us like a dark cloud. Most days we'd arrive at the office early to our task, and during breaks, fiercely type away at our laptops. My fingers felt sore from all the typing. My eyes stung from staring at screens too long. Still, giving up wasn't an option. I wasn't just doing this for a certificate, I was doing it for my future. There was one particularly hectic week when a surprise inspection from the regional department was scheduled. The entire office went into chaos. We were asked to clean every corner, reorganize archives, and be on our best behavior to work double overnight. Yet, even in that chaos, Lala and Lily remained calm. They found ways to balance their report writing with the extra task. Lala even printed out parts of her reports and edited them by hand while shelving books. Lily brought her laptop charger everywhere, treating every corner with an outlet like sacred ground. Our teamwork extended beyond just helping each other. We looked out for other interns too. Some struggled more than others, either due to being shy, falling behind on tasks, or facing difficulties with their supervisors. Or whenever we notice someone isolating themselves, we try to bring them in. We'd say, ayo bareng ngerjain laporan sambil ngemil juga nggak apa-apa. And slowly our little circle grew. I think what made this internship different from my previous experiences was the sense of intellectual camaraderie. It wasn't about who had the highest GPA or who finished their tasks the fastest. It was about effort, sincerity, and solidarity. We were intellectuals not because we wore glasses or wrote big words, but because we persisted through pressure with grace, humor, and heart. One On our second to last week, we took a group photo near the entrance of the library. We were all holding our internship ID tags and grinning like kids on a school trip. It might have sk- it might have seemed like just another photo, but to me it was proof of something important. We had made it through together. I looked at Lala and Lily in the photo booth, still holding their laptops, probably working even as we paused and smiled. That's who we were, students, interns, fighters, and friends. And now, with only a few days left, our final report is almost done. I sit here reflecting on everything: the early mornings, the tight deadlines, and the shared laughter, the breakdowns, the jokes, the dreams. It all feels surreal. This internship wasn't just a requirement, it was a chapter, a meaningful, beautiful chapter in my journey. When we part ways on July 3rd, I know it won't be a goodbye. The bond we built won't dissolve with distance. We'll still be cheering each other on from different corners of each Java, or maybe from even further someday. Because being intellectual isn't about titles or degree, it's about the people you grow with, the dreams you chase, and the courage to keep going, even when the world tells you to stop. And in that sense, I'm proud to say we are intellectuals. The day began with the usual puzzle of government library and archive service of East Java province. It was a cloudy Wednesday, the kind that made you want to crawl back into bed and sleep. But there was no time for that luxury. As intern, we had responsibilities, and for me, Lala, Lely, and a few others, it was another day juggling public service tasks and this college assignments. I arrived at the office a bit earlier than usual. The security guard noted as I scanned in, and the scent of old books and polished tile greeted me like an old friend. It had become routine now, this building, these walls, this shared workspace that we'd carved into our own intellectual battlefield. I dropped my bag by the long wooden table near the reference section and stretched. Another long day was about to begin. Lala and Lily arrived shortly after, their footsteps echoing in the hallway. Lala and her signature canvas tote bag, the one with faded quotes from classic novels printed on it, while Lily, ever the minimalist, just carried her laptop and a bottle of mineral water. "Morning," Lily said, with a small smile already pulling up a chair. Lala yawned as she set down her things. "Didn't sleep till 2 a.m. again," she groaned, brushing a stray lock of hair from her eyes. My thesis supervisor just loved giving sudden revisions. We laughed, but it was the kind of laugh born out of shared suffering. We all knew how that felt. Our tasks for the day included handling the public service counter, answering queries, helping visitors find archives, and managing returns. But there was a lull in the morning traffic, and so we did what we always did in quiet hours: homework. Lana opened her thesis draft and stared at the screen like it was her own sworn enemy. Larry, more focused, had already started typing her final internship report. I, meanwhile, was trying to review a literature assignment that had been overdue for 2 days. "Guys," Lala said, suddenly breaking the silence, "do you ever feel like this is what being an adult is? Working while doing homework, not sleeping, and still smiling like everything's fine?" "Absolutely," I said. Sadly, sadly, yes," Lady added without looking up. We chuckled. It was funny but true. We were all between stages, no longer carefree students but not quite professionals. The internship had thrown us into a liminal space where identity blurred. Were we students, workers, researchers, all three? Despite the heaviness, there was something comforting about our daily grind. This silent solidarity in how we typed side by side, passed around coffee sachets, and shared earbuds to listen to the same lo-fi playlist. It was like an unspoken promise: we are in there together. Around 10 a.m., we were called to assist a group of high school students visiting archives for a school project. Lanley handled the explanation about the Dewey Decimal System with her calm, teacher-like voice, while Lala took them on a miniature. I managed the service log. We moved like a team, efficient, trusting intellectuals indeed. When the students left, we high-fived each other. Small victories like this gave us fuel to keep going. Lunch break was sacred. We headed to our usual warung. The place was nothing fancy, just plastic stools and a modest menu, but the sambal there was legendary. Over steaming plates, over nasi pecel and fried tempeh. We vented about college life and occasionally our dreams. Lala said between mouthfuls. One day I want to open a bookstore cafe, a place where people can read, drink coffee, and just exist. I'd visit every weekend, I said. I'd help design it, Lady offered. Minimalist wooden accent, lots of light. We sat in silence for a moment, visualizing it in the silence hope bloom. Back at the office, the post-lunch slum hit hard. To fight the drowned sinus, we played a game, however finished a packet of their report. First got to request a song on the Bluetooth speaker. To play response from BTS to Toulouse to Coldplay. With every song, our fingers typed faster, our speed lifted just enough. Around 3 p.m., we had an impromptu discussion about a visiting researcher's talk helping next week. Our supervisors, noticing our engagement, tasked us with preparing a display of relevant archival documents to support the event. It was work, yes, but the kind that ignited our curiosity. We dove into folders, pulled old newspaper clippings, debated over which historical records were best. It was the highlight of our day. As the clock ticked toward 4:30, we began to pack up. The office would close soon. I looked at Lala and Lily, both tired but smiling. Let's not forget this, I said. These days, these moments, Lily nodded. We'll laugh about them one day or cry, maybe both. Lala grinned. Let's just write it down so we won't forget. We are being intellectuals after all. We'll laugh again. As we stepped out into the late afternoon light, I felt something settle in my chest, not fear, but gratitude for the friendship, for the hardship, for the shared madness of being young and ambitious and impossibly hopeful. This was another day in the life of being intellectuals, and it was beautiful in its own quite resilient way. The sun hadn't even fully risen when I unlocked my motorbike and rode out of the alley where my boarding house stood. The street was still quiet, the early morning dew still clinging to the leaves. I arrived early at the government's library and archive service of East Java province. That day it was Tuesday, a day usually filled with service duty at the front desk. But this time it felt different. Maybe it was the overcast sky or the way I caught my own reflection in the glass doors, exhausted yet proud. Internship days had grown into a pattern, but they were never boring. This place had a strange power to both stress me out and sooty me all at once. Maybe it was the books, the sterile quiet, or the comforting scent of old pages and printed reports. Or maybe it was the people, especially Lala and Lily. That day, the three of us had taken early shift by 7:40 a.m. We already at our usual post, preparing the counters, checking the computer systems, aligning the chairs, and making sure the scanners and barcode readers work fine. We did this automatically now, like second nature, even though we had only been here for a couple months. Practice makes routine, and routine makes a comfort. You guys ever wonder what we'll be doing on the last day here? Lana asked out of nowhere as she dusted the wooden desk beside mine. Probably crying, I said without thinking, half laughing. Lily chuckled. No kidding, I'll miss this place, even if I sometimes feel like throwing my laptop into the river every time I open my internship report. We all laughed and the sound bounced softly through the quiet library hall. The morning not many visitors came in. Most students were busy with their midterms or this is defenses. We used the quiet time to work on our internship logs, but not before deciding on a pack. No stress talk for the next hour, just silence, music, and concentration. Lala plugged in her earphones, tapping away at her keyboard. Lily chose to sit by window, letting the sunlight shine on her screen as she wrote her report. I stayed at the front desk, altering between typing my logbook and managing the occasional walk-in visitor. It was in this calm that I suddenly realized something we had grown up, even if just a little. Just months ago, I used to panic over every task, freak out about every small deadline, but now I felt calmer, now grounded. I was still under pressure, still exhausted, still juggling work, study, and personal life, but something had changed. I had learned to carry it. Around 10:15 a.m., our supervisor Mbak Nazia would walk in. She was carrying a thick folder of documents and greeted us with her usual warm smile. Good morning, kids. Ready for today's surprise? She said, eyes twinkling. We looked at each other confused. Surprise? Lola echoed. Yes, today. You'll be assisting me directly with archive reclassification in the upper floor storage unit. Archive, archive rela- reclassification? Lady eyes widened. You mean the room with all the old files? Exactly. Time to get your hands dirty with real archival work. And so our day shifted. By 10:30 a.m., we had climbed up to the second floor. The air was thicker up there, the room dimmer, filled with shelves upon shelves of yellowing produce, cupboard boxes, and brittle paper tags. I had been up here before briefly, but never for actual work. It felt like stepping into another world. We were each we were given gloves, masks, and instructions. Our task was to go through a set of old files, classify them under new codes according to their updated archival lifespan, and rebox them accordingly. Lala opened her first folder and let out a small gasp. Guys, this one's from 1984. Lily looked over her shoulder. That's older than my parents' wedding. We all laughed again. But soon the silence returned, not because we were bored, but because the work demanded focus. Each document held a trace of history, land deeds, old municipal letters, tax slips, school files, letters typed on faded typewriters. We handled them delicate, delicately like sacred texts. At one point, I paused to glance around the room. Lala was carefully labeling a new file box, her handwriting neat despite the dusty environment. Lily was squinting at the document trying to decipher the faded ink, and I was breathing into the weight of it all. These weren't just paper, they were the echoes of a thousand stories, families, business struggles, triumphs, and losses. And here we were, college interns, and trusted with organizing them into memory. Around noon, Bagnasia brought us a small treat, a box of pastel and cups of sweet tea. You all deserve a break, let's eat. We sat in a corner of the room, our masks pulled down, our fingers still dusty. I think this is the first time I've ever felt emotional over a bunch of old files, Lala said, chewing thoughtfully. I know what you mean, I replied. It's like you see how fragile people lives are. A name, an ID, a stamp, and that's all that's left. It reminds me why I choose to study literature and history, Lily said, because we live through stories, even the ones hidden in filing cabinets. That moments lingered with us even after the pastel was gone and the teacups emptied. We resumed our test a bit slower this time, more reverent. There was a sense of responsibility waiting on us, not in a stressful way, but in a meaningful one. By 3, by 3 p.m., we had finished sorting six full boxes. Our bags ached and our shoulders were stiff, but there was pride in our eyes. This is the most productive day we've had, I said, stretching. One of the most meaningful, Lala added. We returned to the main floor, our clothes a bit dusty but our hearts full. Before heading home, we sat together one last time at back long table near the back corner, the same place we always sat for lunch or report writing. But this time we weren't working. We just sat and reflected. You know, I said, we're gonna remember this day. I already do, Lady said. It's like in all the stress, all the chaos of being students today reminded me why we were here, why we keep going. Lala noted, this is the kind of day I'll write about in my own journal. Maybe even tell my kids one day how we found meaning between the dust and the files. We didn't need music or phones or social media that afternoon, just quiet, the smell of books, and the soft ticking of the old wall clock. The building started to empty by 4 p.m. Before we parted ways. We made a promise once this internship ended we'd find time to meet again, not just for nostalgia, but to remind ourselves that we were capable of more than we thought. As I rode my motorbike home through the early evening diesel, I realized how important days like these were. They weren't big, dramatic, or flashy, but they changed us subtly like rain softening the soil. Because sometimes in the silence of an archive room between yellowing papers and histories whispers, we learn the loudest trust about who we are becoming. And that's, too, is part of being intellectuals. This is the end of story 2. Thank you for watching.